Bernie Sanders just got a new endorsement today, and this comes from a progressive group called the Working Families Party. The Working Families Party just endorsed Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, this endorsement actually comes from after an overwhelming majority of its members chose to back the progressive senator from Vermont. Now, it's also important to note that this Working Families Party had actually, this is their first endorsement in a national election ever. So they're a bit of a new group. But this is their first national endorsement that actually had endorsed some other candidates in more local elections, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, according to this report from the Huffington Post, over 87% of Working Families Party members voted to back Senator Sanders, compared to about 11.5% for Hillary Clinton and 1.1% for former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Now, that's really interesting because, as I've noted before, a lot of the union memberships of some of the different unions that endorsed Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, well, they didn't really consult their members. Their members, a lot of them aren't really all that happy because they see how Bernie Sanders has been consistently on the side of labor. I mean, during his campaign, he stopped and he's joined the picket line. Now, I remember when President Obama had said during his campaign, "Oh, hey man, if you need me on the picket line, I'll grab my walking shoes." Well, he never showed up. But Bernie Sanders, he always shows up. If there's a union picket line where he's campaigning, he'll stop there. That's pretty cool for a candidate. And that sort of shows, I mean, you're putting your money where your mouth is. You're putting your, boots on the ground, essentially, and saying, look, I support you guys. I support workers. So I'm going to be here for you. And I'll be here for you if I become president. Now, that's a powerful message. Now, many of the union boards, the advisory boards, and such and so forth, right? Well, they still backed Hillary Clinton because I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, right? But I thought that it was more of a political calculation in order to get access. Because I think that's what a lot of campaigning is about, and a lot of endorsements are about these days, are about mostly getting access. That's not to say that people that endorse Hillary Clinton don't actually like Hillary Clinton. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it's a very pragmatic choice. So I think some of the unions went in that direction because of that pragmatism. But this party did not. Over 87% of their members said, no, we're going to go for Bernie Sanders. Why? Well, according to the national director of the Working Families Party, Dan Cantor, according to a statement, he said, "We want to live in a nation that allows all people to live a decent life, no matter what is in their parents' bank account or who is in their family tree." Now, he also says, but the super rich have used their economic muscle to buy political muscle. And unless you're one of them, what you think government should do basically doesn't count. Now, on that, you got to reference the Princeton study that shows that most people, the priorities of the middle class and the working poor, they're not represented by our government. If we have something in common with wealthier people, then yes, we'll get that legislation passed. But if it isn't backed by the wealthy, by the people who have influence in Washington, then it doesn't get passed. And that's a real problem. They described our government as an oligarchy. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in an oligarchy. I actually want to change the system so that normal people, like you and I, are represented by the government. That the things that we want the government to do actually get done. What a novel concept. Anyway, his statement continues, Mr. Dan Cantor. Now he says, "That's why we're standing with Bernie Sanders to build the political revolution and make our nation into one where every family can thrive." Not only that, Sanders' campaign manager after this endorsement comes out, he says to this, Bernie Sanders has devoted his career to helping working families and is gratified by the support of the Working Families Party. Together, they will work to take on the billionaire class and change the rigged economy that is being held up by a corrupt political system. Now, that's very important because 74% of Americans look at our political system and know that it's rigged. It's not just the economic system, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not just the economic system that's rigged, it's the political system. And by people I mean pundits, people on Washington, inside of the Beltway bubble. They don't see that people are angry, not at just the economics, but at the political corruption that we have. The fact that our politicians are paid to not solve problems. They're paid to keep the status quo, to keep the establishment in power. People see that, and people don't like that. And that's why you're seeing a lot of grassroots support for Senator Sanders. So now, so what about the Workers' Family? How far is this endorsement going to go? What is the Workers' Family Party or Working Families Party all about? And how big are they? Well, they're obviously for working families. And they're obviously supporting progressive candidates that have progressive positions on economic issues and social issues. Now, as far as how big they are, they apparently have chapters in 10 different states. And as far as their political action goes, it elected its first state legislature in Connecticut in a special election in February. Now, it also elected members to city councils and school board seats. So they're taking the route that a lot of other politicians or political parties should have done. Like, for example, the Green Party. The Green Party never does anything, even though it runs a candidate every 4 years on some great progressive platforms. They never get anywhere because they don't start at the bottom. The Working Families Party is doing something different. They're actually going, we're going to start small and build ourselves up. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you have victory. That's how you win. You start from the bottom. And what they've done is help to elect members to city council and school boards. That's great. Now, the party, on their politics, they endorse Democrats when it doesn't have a member in the race because they're progressive. But sometimes they will challenge Democrats who are not progressive populist enough. They will primary candidates from the left. That's great. How many times have we said that what we need to challenge corporate Dems is somebody from the left at least coming in and challenging them in a primary? It doesn't matter if they win. What matters is if they pull the Democratic Party back to the left where it belongs. Because right now, the Democratic Party is too far center-right. That's great. And this is the closest thing that the left has to a Tea Party-like entity. Not in the level of craziness, but what it actually does to push progressive policies, much like the Tea Party pushes ultra-conservative policies. Now, at the same time, the Tea Party, you remember the Tea Party, right? When it came up, it had massive, massive media attention. But it was actually rather small. And now it's very, very minuscule on the national scene. But they got all this media attention. Where's CNN covering this party? Where's the mainstream? Where's MSNBC? Where are they? Where are they? I don't see them. It's because they don't care. Media doesn't seem to care about progressive candidates, and that's why you don't see a lot of Bernie Sanders as well, because the media ignores them. Because the media is centrist or corporatist, and they're center-right in their politics. They don't want to cover progressive candidates, especially populist candidates and populist parties. They don't like that. They've only had to cover Bernie Sanders because he's been doing very well in polls in Iowa and New Hampshire. and he'd been making quite a splash there. And nationally, he's about 20 points behind. Still, he's the only other real contender in the Democratic nominating race. So, there's that. Now, here's the thing, right? This party hasn't just had success in getting people elected, it's also had success on policy, which is much more than we can say for the Tea Party, especially now. The party's chapters have seen issue advocacy success in pressuring Democrats to pass things like the minimum wage and paid sick leave laws. Interesting. It's also emerged, according to the Huffington Post, as a leading voice on the left, helping to elect Philadelphia Mayor-elect Jim Kenney and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Well, that's big. That's a big name to get elected. Bill de Blasio in New York. Major. Now, the thing about de Blasio is that, like a lot of the unionists that endorsed Hillary Clinton, Bill de Blasio also endorsed Clinton, and I think it was also because of pragmatism. But that's just my own personal belief. But here you have a progressive group that has had policy successes, and it's generally on the right side of issues. Pushing for minimum wage laws and paid sick leave from work, well, those are, those are progressive issues, but they're not extreme issues. So that, in that way, it differs greatly from the Tea Party. And yet, kind of like Bernie Sanders, you don't see a lot of coverage about this party and what they're doing in mainstream corporate media. And that's a bit of a problem. But nonetheless, this is an important endorsement, and I hope that it will help Bernie Sanders.